Hey, it's Kyle here, and currently I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot of a Barnes & Noble. You might be asking, Kyle, why are you sitting in a parking lot outside of a Barnes & Noble? It's because inside of that bookstore, in about 20 minutes, Jackson Pearce will be having a book release party for her new book, Sweetly. So in about 20 minutes, book release party will be starting. I'll be videotaping what transpires, so if you weren't able to make it to the book release party, no worries. You'll be able to watch the proceedings on this video. So hope you'll enjoy it, and hope you'll feel so inclined to go out and buy Jackson Pearce's new book, Sweetly.
It'll be called Sweetly. It'll be Hansel and Gretel. It'll be dark. It'll be awesome. So that night, when I got home, after I wrote a check to pay the speeding ticket that I got shortly after my revelation, I started writing. And I just sat down and I was like, here we go, just like Sisters Red. Let's make this happen, magic fingers. And I wrote over the next month, I think, I wrote about 30,000 words. And then I stopped and read the 30,000 words that I'd written, and they sucked. They were so bad. And I was like, oh God, what have I done? And the reason they were so bad is because I wasn't trying to write Sweetly. I was trying to write Sisters Red again. And I hadn't given Sweetly a chance to sort of be its own thing and a chance to be its own book. I had tried to force it into something that it just wasn't. So I realized I was going to have to go back to the drawing board, so to speak. And the drawing board for me, for this book particularly, was fairy tales, because this is a retelling of Hansel and Gretel. I start to realize I'm doing this, and I'm like, it's like a line dance. Here we go. I don't know. So I went back to the drawing board with fairy tales. Now, fairy tales for me kind of come from two different places. One of them is this amorphous place that I don't entirely understand, because I don't know when I first heard the story for Hansel and Gretel. I don't know where I first heard most fairy tales. Does anybody remember, distinctly remember sort of, reading Hansel and Gretel for the first time? Does anybody distinctly remember, you remember sitting down with your mom and reading it? You have an active memory of that. Can I see a show of hands? One. Awesome. I like your hat. And your shirt. Two. Okay. Three. We have three people. Who knows the story of Hansel and Gretel, though? Yay, see, it always works like this. That's why I feel confident asking those questions. That's because fairy tales are kind of just ingrained in our heads. They're part of our culture. They're part of our lives, and we don't even realize it. We don't even know how we got, covered in fairy tales. They're like glitter. Fairy tales are the glitter of literature, because you brush past something and you're like, oh my God, it's everywhere. And then it never washes off, ever, ever, ever. So that is the first place I get sort of fairy tales from. The second place, and I know some literature purists are going to be like, boo, is Disney. I know, and I know Disney gets a lot of sort of hate for taking really dark stories and turning them into these bouncy fun fairy tales with a plucky companion. I know they get that, I know. But you cannot deny the fact that Disney and sort of animated stories in general, they have a huge part in our culture, in our lives. Because let me tell you, I spent most of my childhood looking for a ladder on a bookcase with which to swing off of, like Belle does in that one scene. Do you have ladders here? I spent another large part of my childhood in swimming pools, getting down really low, and then busting out like that, like Ariel does in that scene in The Little Mermaid. And also trying to make my hair do that thing that Ariel does. The Ariel thing. You know what? Hair doesn't do that. You know why? Disney lied to us about hair. Hair does not do that. You cannot make it happen. I've tried many times. It doesn't work. But since this amorphous glitter place and Disney hair are probably a slightly less reputable resource than Wikipedia, I sort of went back to the original fairy tale itself, and I read a bunch of different versions of Hansel and Gretel, which oddly enough are not really all that different. It's one of the few that has sort of stayed this. I cannot open this water bottle with one hand. Hang on.
Stay tightly. Don't let move.
That was my sister making the bird noise. Am I talking too fast?
No.
Okay.
Just call for the water.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
those are obviously not very good research choices. I reread a bunch of stories of Hansel and Gretel. I tried to familiarize myself with the fairy tale. One that actually, the one version, I guess you could call it, of the fairy tale that really stuck with me and influenced this book was, oddly enough, the fairy tale tarot deck, which I got as a gift from my friend Sandra Mitchell, who Sweetly is dedicated to, when Sisters Red came out. She sent me this tarot deck, and it was all fairy tales, and it was a cool, I don't read tarot cards, but they're pretty pictures. And the fairy tale, the card for Hansel and Gretel, was of Gretel pushing the witch into the oven while Hansel's like hanging out here like a pansy in a cage. And Gretel's like, she's not like, go. I mean, she's like, ha, like, go in the, like, she's like not messing around in that picture. And I was like, that's what I need to write about. It's like Gretchen, who's really tough, like really strong, and Gretel, who's really strong, really tough. And so that was very inspirational, I guess you could say. I also did some get out of my house and away from my computer research. I took chocolate making lessons at a chocolatier in Atlanta, which is exactly as good as it sounds like it was. For those, the guy that taught those was this really, really tall, really, really muscular gay man. And like, so you're taking the lessons, and he took this very seriously, obviously, because this is his business. And so, you know, I'm trying to learn, and he's like, pour this into the mold lightly, let me do it. And I'm like, can I just go get a Hershey bar? Did you just say Hershey? No. But he did actually ruin, I will say, he did ruin cheap chocolate for me. Because now, like, Hershey ain't gonna cut it. Like, now I really like the fancy chocolate. If you are going to buy chocolate, buy the really good chocolate, and then write a book about it, and you can call it research. And it's a tax deduction. The adults laugh. Another thing I did to research out of the house is I learned how to shoot a rifle. For that, I went to my paternal grandfather and my father. And my paternal grandparents, they owned this tract of land out in like the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. Like, they don't have cell phone reception. I don't even know that the post office delivers. Do you know, Katie?
Not sure.
Yeah, if they do, it's on horseback. So it's out in the middle of nowhere, and there's this house there. And when they bought this land, the house is. Have you ever driven past in like rural Georgia a field full of kudzu, and the kudzu's like eating a house, and the house is like growing in on itself? That's what the house looked like when they first bought this place. And we get there, and they're like, one day we'll fix that up, and you can come here and write a book. And I'm like, do you hate me? What do I do? I mean, Wi-Fi is out of the question, but does it have plumbing? The house actually did turn out very, very nicely, and it does have plumbing. It does not have Wi-Fi. I can tell you that. But anyway, so we got in the middle of like nowhere, North Carolina, and you know, my grandfather takes out the rifle and everything, and I'm doing pretty good. I'm learning how to shoot the rifle, and I'm feeling kind of proud of myself because I'm hitting the little gray man right in the head, and I'm like, aha, you're a werewolf. Yeah. So I'm feeling all arrogant about it because that's what I do sometimes. And then my grandfather brings out the shotgun, and I'm like, I got this. Here we go. I don't know how many of you are familiar with a shotgun, but a shotgun has recoil, which is when you see the movies when they do like this and it like jerks back. And I mean, I didn't, again, arrogant, didn't think anything of it. So I'm there and I'm hiding and I shoot with the shotgun and I kapow! And it hit like the part of your shoulder where it like, the pain like ran down and my hand was like burning and I didn't understand. And my grandfather's like, you're holding it wrong, do it again. And I'm like, okay. So I lined it up and and at this point I'm like, I'm not doing it again. And my grandfather's like, yes you are. And I'm like, okay. And so I shoot it a third time, and oh my God, it hurt so bad. And I consider myself a relatively tough person. I do, but something about it, like, I don't know, and I started crying. I know, I'm a sissy. So I started kind of getting misty and teary-eyed and upset because it really hurt bad. And at this point, it is important to tell you that my grandfather raised 3 boys. Me and my sister are his first female grandchildren. He has 3 other female grandchildren now as well. But I don't think he always knows what to do with girls, especially when they do things like cry. And like when I was in middle school once, he he and I were like picking on each other, like we were sort of just, like making fun of each other, just teasing each other. And I mean, I was in middle school. He must have said something that upset me because I was. And he's what? Here's $20. So when I started crying over the gun hurting really badly, he starts putting like handkerchiefs under my shirt right there, and he's like, "I'll fix it," and I'm like, "With a handkerchief?" Your wife's a nurse, but I don't think it's transferred at all. So, but anyway, and that actually ended up being it's a pivotal scene in Sweetly. Actually, it ended up going into the book. So I guess the pain was worth it. I guess he was low on cash too, because I didn't get any money that day. So check his wallet first is what I've learned. So after I had sort of done all of this research and I had given the story a chance to be its own creation instead of trying to make it a cheap knockoff of my other book, it was much easier to write. And I sat down and I wrote it, and it did flow much better that time, and I was able to create it, and I'm very, very proud of it at this point. I remember at one point my agent asked me how many advanced copies of the book I wanted, and I was like, "You think this is going to ever make it to advanced copies? It's never going to be done." But it is, and I'm so proud of it, and I'm so glad you guys came to see it and get it signed.
Well, I hope you enjoyed Jackson Pearce's discussion, presentation, however you want to term it, on Sweetly. Got the book. I did get it signed. See if I can work this out to show you. There you go. It actually says, Kyle, create your own trail, Jackson Pearce. I thought that was very nice. So now I am going to eat my Zaxby's chicken finger sandwich and with some sweet tea, because I went to the book signing right after work and I haven't had supper yet. So I'll eat and then I'll read the book, and then fairly soon after I post this, I'll try to get a review up for Sweetly. But the little bit from the discussion Jackson Pearce gave today, I think I'm really going to enjoy it. So head to your local bookstore and get a copy of Sweetly by Jackson Pearce.